Yemen, a country with a rich tapestry of history and culture, now facing one of the most challenging periods in its existence. A land of ancient history where civilizations have thrived for millennia. The remnants of its glorious past still stand, whispering tales of bygone eras. A place of breathtaking beauty, with landscapes that range from majestic mountains to serene coastlines. Nature's artistry is evident in every corner. But today, it is a country consumed by chaos. The echoes of gunfire and the shadows of destruction have replaced the once peaceful ambiance. Yemen is one of the most dangerous countries in the world. The streets are patrolled by armed soldiers and checkpoints are a common sight. Years of relentless conflict have left their mark. The infrastructure is shattered, basic services have collapsed, hospitals, schools and roads lie in ruins, and the threat of violence is ever present. Armed groups roam freely, and explosions are a constant reminder of the ongoing strife. This is not a place for the faint of heart. The desolation and destruction are overwhelming and the sense of danger is palpable. It is a stark reminder of the fragility of peace. The broken peace symbols and empty homes tell a story of dreams shattered and lives disrupted. And the human cost of conflict is immense. Displaced families wander through the rubble, and grieving civilians mourn the loss of loved ones. For those who dare to venture here, the risks are immense. Terrorism, kidnapping and landmines are just a few of the dangers that lurk around every corner. These are just some of the dangers that lurk around every corner. The situation is complex, with numerous factions vying for control, each with its own agenda. But the message is clear: Yemen is closed to the world, and for good reason. The risks are too great and the future remains uncertain. At the heart of Yemen's turmoil lies a brutal civil war. It began in 2014. Houthi rebels, backed by Iran, seized control of the capital, Sana'a. They ousted the internationally recognized government. A Saudi-led coalition intervened in 2015. They aimed to restore the government, but the conflict escalated. It has become a proxy war. Regional powers are vying for influence. The fighting has been relentless. Airstrikes have devastated cities. Ground battles have raged across the country. Millions have been displaced from their homes. There is no end in sight. Peace talks have stalled. The warring parties seem intent on fighting to the bitter end. It is a tragedy of immense proportions. Yemen is a dangerous place. Terrorist groups operate freely. They target foreigners. Kidnappings are common. Ransoms are demanded. The threat is ever present, and the fear is palpable. Foreigners are often advised to avoid travel, but for those who must go, extreme caution is necessary. The risk of abduction is high, and the consequences can be dire, and there is no guarantee of release. Landmines litter the countryside. These hidden dangers are remnants of past conflicts, waiting silently to claim their next victim. Farmers, children, and unsuspecting travelers are all at risk. The landmines are often poorly marked, making them even more treacherous. A legacy of decades of conflict. The scars of war are visible everywhere. Abandoned battlefields and ruined buildings tell the story of a nation in turmoil. The landscape is a grim reminder of the violence that has plagued Yemen for years. They are a constant threat. Every step taken in these areas is fraught with danger. The fear of triggering a landmine is a daily reality for many Yemenis. This constant vigilance takes a toll on the mental health of the population. To civilians and soldiers alike, both groups must navigate these perilous environments. Soldiers are trained for such dangers, but civilians are not. The presence of military zones adds another layer of complexity and risk to daily life. Unexploded ordnance is another hazard. These remnants of war can lie dormant for years, only to explode without warning. They are a hidden menace, capable of causing devastating injuries or death. It can maim or kill without warning. The unpredictability of these devices makes them particularly dangerous. Efforts to clear them are ongoing, but the sheer number of unexploded ordnance makes this a daunting task. Even everyday activities carry risks. Simple tasks like fetching water or going to school can be life-threatening. The constant threat of violence and danger has become a part of daily life for many Yemenis. Traveling by road is perilous. Checkpoints are unpredictable. Armed groups control many of these checkpoints and their intentions can be hostile. Travelers must be prepared for anything from extortion to violence. Armed groups may stop vehicles, they may rob passengers, or worse. The threat of violence is ever present, and the fear of what might happen at these checkpoints is a constant concern for those traveling through Yemen. The security situation is volatile and unpredictable. What might seem like a safe route one day can become a battleground the next. The shifting dynamics of conflict make it difficult to predict where the next danger will arise. What is safe one day may be a death trap the next. The unpredictability of the situation means that caution is always necessary. People must remain vigilant and be prepared to change their plans at a moment's notice. There is no room for error in Yemen. The stakes are incredibly high and the margin for mistake is virtually non-existent. Every decision can have life or death consequences. One wrong move can have fatal consequences. The environment is unforgiving and the dangers are numerous. In Yemen, survival often depends on a combination of caution, luck, and the ability to navigate an ever-changing landscape of threats. The war has had a devastating impact on Yemen's infrastructure. The economy is in ruins, basic services have completely collapsed, millions are on the brink of starvation, hospitals are overwhelmed, schools have closed, water and electricity are extremely scarce. The once vibrant society is now on its knees. The collapse of infrastructure has made daily life a struggle for survival. Finding food, water, and shelter is a constant challenge. The lack of basic services has created a breeding ground for disease. The humanitarian crisis in Yemen is one of the worst in the world, yet it receives very little attention. The international community must do more to help the people of Yemen. The healthcare system in Yemen is on the verge of collapse. Hospitals lack essential medicines, and the infrastructure is crumbling under the weight of ongoing conflict and economic instability. Medical facilities are struggling to provide even the most basic care. Medical personnel are in short supply. Many have fled the country or have been displaced by the conflict, leaving a skeletal workforce to manage an overwhelming number of patients. Those who remain are overworked and under-resourced, and the threat of disease is ever present. Overcrowded hospitals and poor sanitation create breeding grounds for infectious diseases. The lack of clean water and proper waste disposal exacerbates the situation. The ongoing conflict has created ideal conditions for outbreaks. War-torn streets and damaged infrastructure make it difficult to control the spread of diseases. Displaced families living in close quarters are particularly vulnerable. Cholera, diphtheria, and measles have spread rapidly. Vaccination campaigns are hindered by the conflict, and many children go unvaccinated, leaving them susceptible to preventable diseases. Malnutrition has weakened the population's immune system, making them more susceptible to illness. Food shortages and lack of access to nutritious meals have led to widespread malnutrition, particularly among children. Even minor injuries can be life-threatening. With limited medical supplies and personnel, treating wounds and infections becomes a daunting task. Many injuries that would be easily treatable elsewhere can become fatal here. Access to quality medical care is limited, especially in rural areas. Remote villages often rely on traveling doctors and makeshift clinics, which are few and far between. The journey to reach these clinics can be perilous. Medical evacuation is often the only option, but it is costly and difficult to arrange. Rough terrain and ongoing conflict make transportation challenging, and many cannot afford the high costs associated with evacuation. Travelers to Yemen must take extreme precautions. Vaccinations are essential to protect against the numerous diseases present. Carrying a well-stocked medical kit is also advisable. Food and water should be carefully prepared. Contaminated food and water sources are common, and proper hygiene practices are crucial to avoid illness. And medical insurance that covers evacuation is a must. In the event of a medical emergency, having insurance that includes evacuation can be a lifesaver, ensuring that you can receive the necessary care. Yemen is a deeply conservative country. Islamic law is strictly enforced. Travelers must be aware of local customs and traditions, and respect them at all times. Dress modestly, avoid public displays of affection, and be mindful of your behavior. What may seem harmless in your home country could land you in serious trouble in Yemen. Photography is restricted, especially of government buildings and military installations. Drug offenses are punished severely, as are offenses related to alcohol and sexual activity outside of marriage. It is essential to obtain the necessary visas and permits before traveling to Yemen, and to check the latest travel advisories. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. Yemen is off limits. The Foreign Office advises against all travel, and for good reason. It is a country teetering on the brink. The risks are simply too high. The security situation is too volatile, and the infrastructure is too fragile. No amount of adventure is worth risking your life. For those who dream of experiencing Yemen's rich history and culture, be patient. Wait for peace to return, and for the country to rebuild. Only then will it be safe to explore this ancient and fascinating land. Until then, Yemen remains a land of shattered dreams, a stark reminder of the human cost of conflict, and a place to be avoided at all costs.